Hi, I'm Nathan with Big Little Gardens right outside of Raleigh. I'm about 15 minutes from Plant Delights, and I'm a plant collector, but even more so a Mangave addict. So I thought I'd bring the Plant Delights team over here and show you how I grow my Mangave. I've got a big collection here. Most of them are in containers. So, you know, we'll sort of go through how I grow them because everybody grows them a little bit different. But if you're unfamiliar with Mangaves, what they are is a cross between the Manfreda, which has this sort of floppy, really soft texture. And there's a number of them out there, certainly not as many as agaves, I don't think, but they've found that they can cross. So what you're getting is this sort of big agave texture and size, but with a lot of that Manfreda. You know, they've got some nice spots, some nice variegation, nice color. And what I really love is these varieties that have the really soft, drooping textures, because I have a 3-year-old and he, you know, I can leave these around him and I don't have to worry. And there's probably a handful that have that really soft, sort of downward texture. Another really neat one is praying hands. You're seeing this more so in marketing and on the market. Really neat texture, but you know, Hans Hansen is the breeder for a lot of these, and he's working with the team at Plant Delights to introduce new ones. You know, I think they just exchange a lot of pollen with each other through their agave collections. But yeah, so when I first started collecting, and I'll show you, you would find growers, you know, they don't really care about the end product. They just care about getting them out the door, and they'll grow them in peat moss because they're going to grow really fast in peat moss. And this was a beautiful plant 4 months ago, probably better than everything out here. And it got overwatered, so it rotted. So what I now do, and I was just testing that to see if it was going to happen again, but really what I do now is I put them in a very chunky, high grit mix. This has some permatil, pumice would be a better option, perlite, some bark, and coconut coir. I don't really like to use peat moss because it can get hydrophobic, and sometimes, you know, they're going to dry out. But really, your care is really dependent on your climate and how often you're going to water them. I water my collection with everything else every 2 days in the summer. So I need a really porous mix that's going to dry out fairly quickly. And I'll admit, this collection here is probably one of the ugliest collections I've ever seen. I mean, what they are posting on Facebook and you know, some of these other social media sites, those plants look way better than mine. So I'm certainly no, you know, Mangave whisperer, but I do love them, and I think they're a really, really cool plant that deserves a lot more attention. Lavender Lady is a really, really popular one. Again, that nice soft texture. And then you can see a lot of these other ones that are just, you know, incredible variegation. Look at that, just, you know, stunning, stunning plant. They do pup a lot. You know, you'll have a lot of offsets, and that could be, you know, just from the genetic diversity, or it could be just something to do with tissue culture. But you'll see a lot of these pots have lots of plants in them. When they do flower, the main plant will die, but there'll be a lot of offsets. And I've never had one that flowered and I lost it. There's a handful that are cold hardy. We can take a look in the front yard at the ones that are cold hardy. But for the most part, I think most of them are going to be considered tropical. And even the ones that are considered tropical, I've left a lot of them in the ground, and the next spring they'll come right back. So we'll go check out the front. Real quick, I wanted to show this. I think this is snow leopard. Maybe they can confirm that. But this is one that I leave in this big pot. I think it's listed tropical, but it gets a little bit of frost burn on very, very cold nights here in zone 8A, but it bounces right back very early in the spring and looks like that all summer. All right, so up here we are in my sort of dry bed. I built this in front of the house because I knew it was going to stay a little bit drier with the roof and a little bit warmer with the brick walls. But this bed is built with 50% permatil, 50% soil, just like they do at Plant Delights for their agave beds. Mine has a lot more organic matter. It's more like 50% compost. So it stays a little bit wetter, but I haven't lost anything up here. This particular Mangave is blue mammoth. Good luck finding it, but it is a really awesome plant. And again, this like texture, you know, I'd trust a toddler with that. Next to it down here is, I believe, racing stripes. That one will get dug up, but blue mammoth, I think we got down to like 14 degrees Fahrenheit last year and it was fine. And then a few more Mangave I've got up here. Can't remember exactly the name of it, but just this beautiful purple streak down the middle. I mean, what kind of plant is going to give you that other than a Mangave? And then maybe one here. I think this is Falling Waters. There's one more that sort of looks like that, but that will stay in the ground as well. I know Falling Waters certainly will. And then two more of my favorites, or one more of my favorite, and they look quite small up here compared to what they can do, but this is Mission to Mars. And if you look at, you know, some of what they're growing out west, they just get massive, like bigger than blue mammoth, I would say. And those will get dug up as well because they are not cold hardy. But all that's to say, if you're looking for something really interesting, really tough, hard to kill, and you know, if you especially if you want agave but have young children around, the Mangave, there's a lot of really good options for that. So start collecting because they are always introducing new ones, and you know, some of them just get hard to find. But check out Plant Delights, your local garden center, wherever, and grab some Mangave.